check. Keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch the scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show. Once again with your host, Nick Bernabe, here on UCY.TV. You could also catch us at the antimedia.org/radio and catch up on all of our shows. We have a Anti-Media Radio Show Monday through Friday, same place, same time, UCY.TV, antimedia.org/radio. Also, if the time of day doesn't work for you, you can catch us on YouTube if you feel like it. We do talk about topics that transcend radio shows, so it's like we talk about it Monday, we talk about it Wednesday, we may talk about it the following Monday, Scott may talk about it on Thursday and Tuesday. Anyway, that out of the way, yeah, make sure you follow us because we only do this show because people listen to it. So share it with your friends, get online and post the link, share the meme. The radio meme is probably the most important thing. We will be taking some calls tonight. The number to call in is 718-717-8296. If you call in and get on the line, make sure you keep your microphone muted, and then we'll get to you based on your area code. We'll say, hey, caller from 916, you're on the line, go ahead and talk. Pretty simple stuff, but sometimes we get trolls calling in trying to disrupt the show. We're not going to let that happen tonight. Also joined by my longtime co-host tonight, DB Schwartz. What's up, DB?
Not a whole lot, man. Everything's quiet on all fronts. Doesn't it seem like it?
Really, really slow news day today. Like we were hurting for stuff to write about, but I mean we still may do. But yeah, the interesting weekend. But today itself very, very slow.
The excitement here is it's officially Beyonce Day, according to Governor Dayton of Minnesota, the asshat.
Oh, wonderful! Beyonce. I don't know. Nothing. I have no words for that.
Well, didn't Prince just die? I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, Prince is dead. I mean, Beyonce is. I don't know. What is Beyonce? A distraction? Role model? Idol? I have no clue. I don't pay attention to. I'm not up to date on the Beyonce thing. We're also joined tonight by Jake Anderson. What's up, Jake?
I am here, I am alive, and I'm ready to speak to you.
And you're a huge Beyonce fan.
Yeah, I know the names of 3 of her songs. I'm a huge fan.
Are you ready to get in a vociferous argument with some ANCAPs?
Oh boy, yeah, I am. It's my argument is, it's simple, DB. It's my argument is, I have an opinion I'm going to say it, and then the response is, I will kill you so that I can own your body.
There you go. I mean, that's a great way to win arguments. I've always found great success using that tactic. We got some big news over the weekend. March Against Monsanto went down on Saturday. Places all over the world. I was seeing in like Taiwan, South Africa, and of course all over Europe and the United States. People all around the world standing up to Monsanto and their corrupt business practices and all that stuff. So, that's a positive development. We helped actually start the March Against Monsanto. I don't know, I think it was like 4 years ago, 4 years ago, back when the anti-media was still in its infancy. I kind of got lucky and made this one really huge meme, and it went super viral, and it kind of made the March Against Monsanto blow up from a small-time movement to something really big. But, like any movement, it's got its faults and it's got its positives and stuff. I've kind of drifted away from the organizational role that I used to have a couple years ago with the organization, but don't get me wrong, I think that it's really important to get out there and bring up these issues of corrupting of the food supply. And to me, the biggest issue, and the one that really drove me into that movement, was the over-centralization, man. Like, we're putting ourselves into a really vulnerable position by allowing a corporate food supply to take over the way we eat, man, because we're all reliant on like crops that are grown hundreds, if not thousands of miles away, and that's a problem, man. We got to bring our food chain, our food supply closer around us, and all these pesticides being used on the Roundup Ready crops. I think the naysayers have plenty of ammunition to use against the anti-GMO movement. The majority of GMO crops actually haven't been shown to cause health issues. And many of them do reduce pesticide use and stuff. But on the other hand, the Roundup Ready stuff, which, if you look at just the amount of GMO crops, most of them are fine. If you look at the amount of crops that are being used, well, then we start running into the problem of the Roundup Ready crops, which is, the soybeans, the corn, the cotton, the canola. And that stuff is what promotes the heavy use of glyphosate, and glyphosate, Roundup, it's been shown with every study that's coming out, all these new studies are showing that this glyphosate, Roundup, and even the byproducts in Roundup are causing a lot of issues. There's a lawsuit going on right now from farmers who claim that Roundup caused their what's it called, non-Hodgkin's. I'm really bad at pronouncing that. Some kind of cancer.
The non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Some farmers claiming that Roundup, and not even the glyphosate, they're saying some of the quote-unquote inert ingredients caused it.
Well, so many people in India were coming down with internal organ failures because of the concentration of glyphosate that farmers have literally gone to using Coca-Cola. That's what they spray on their crops now.
I'm not sure if that's much healthier.
Yeah, maybe not, but I mean.
Yeah, and the other thing is that glyphosate gets into the water, into the groundwater. There's been numerous studies in Argentina and Sri Lanka that showed that glyphosate in the water causes uptake of like heavy metals into your body, causes a bunch of other like kidney issues and things like that. So just not a good chemical. And Monsanto, for everything it's done, I mean, we're talking about the company that helped produce Agent Orange. They held the patent on glyphosate for a long time. A lot of bad chemicals throughout history. I mean, they've even associated with DDT, and now multiple lawsuits against them over PCBs, which was a industrial chemical used in a lot in like shipbuilding and stuff like that. And now it's polluted a lot of waterways in the country and all around the world, actually.
The craziest thing is how GMOs are being marketed to especially like high school students now, where they're equating natural selection with biotechnology, with literal gene splicing among different species, and then going, well, in nature there's something known as when genes just jump, gene jumping, and maybe Jake can weigh in on this as how they're trying to get around it on the propaganda angle now.
I wouldn't doubt it. I really wouldn't.
Sorry, what were you talking about?
Essentially, like in nature, there's some phenomenon they're trying to say happens on the regular called gene jumping.
Oh, like in Jurassic Park?
Like, yeah, like generally speaking, there'd be two, species that would naturally create another one through gene jumping, and that's just the, biggest crock of shit you could imagine.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
A lot of what they're doing with the biotech stuff is they're just advancing evolution like really, really rapidly. Something that would take thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of years for stuff to evolve. They're doing it like overnight, and it's for short-term applications. It's like, oh, that's great. We can create crops that are drought resistant. We can create crops that don't need to be don't have to use pesticides because they're naturally resistant to certain pests. But there's other repercussions in the food chain, man. When you start playing around with genetics and you start creating huge evolutionary processes overnight, it has repercussions throughout the food chain and stuff. And that's something that I think isn't studied enough. And we're seeing it. Many people have related a lot of the GMO crops and other pesticides to the decline of the honeybee and also to the decline of the monarch butterfly. And these are just a couple examples. We don't know the full extent of damage that is being done by these heavy pesticides and by these GMO crops. So we don't know. And more research needs to be done so that we can find out, what exactly is going on. On this topic of the Monsanto issue, we've got this big merger going on. If you guys are in the outline, I put the outline in the radio chat. There's this big merger talk going on between Bayer and Monsanto. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's been trending on Facebook all day, and so this is pretty big news. Bayer is a huge agrochemical giant. They also produce drugs, they produce chemicals, they do all kinds of stuff. And it's a European company, and apparently they were also, at least partially, the guys that were supplying some of the gases that the Nazis used on the Jews too. And then you got Monsanto, who helped create the chemical for Agent Orange, which was notoriously used over in Vietnam. And coincidentally, Obama's over there right now, and Obama just announced that he was going to start arming Vietnam again. I'm sure that's going to work out really well. But, this is a very interesting merger going on because Bayer is much less, people know Bayer because of their aspirin, right? Americans, for the most part, don't associate Bayer with anything really negative and stuff, though Bayer has its own, long history of corporate crimes and environmental catastrophes and things that they've done on that front. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up about this, and Claire had a great article, she's not going to be joining us tonight, but she had a great article on this on the 20th, which I think would have been Friday, about how one of the things that could happen here, because, as we were talking about the March Against Monsanto, there's literally a huge social movement all about like opposing Monsanto, their crops, their practices, their chemicals, their pesticides. Bayer comes in, if they're successful in this takeover, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Bayer would rebrand all the Monsanto stuff and turn it into a Bayer product because they don't want that stigma that's attached to that Monsanto name. So this may be a way of Monsanto saying, you know what, we're kind of capitulating here. We're saying, the consumer is rejecting us, but, we have all these assets, we have all these technologies, we have all these lobbyists and all these inside connections and stuff, which are very valuable. I mean, they have their people in the FDA, they have their people in the Supreme Court, they have their people throughout Congress. Monsanto could sell all of that infrastructure to Bayer. Bayer can take it, rebrand it under the Bayer name, and then no one's going to know who the Monsanto product is anymore.
And Bayer gets Blackwater.
That to me is like really concerning. Like I really don't know, how we're gonna track all this stuff. I guess there's like apps like the Boycott app and stuff. People can try to track this thing. But this is one of the issues that I've been concerned about since the beginning of the March Against Monsanto is that people, they built up a movement around this company to oppose it. But what happens when this company renames itself, or in this case, if Bayer buys it out, that's going to provide a whole new predicament for activists that are trying to find out what's in their food. And the other thing is about Monsanto is that they're also one of the biggest players on like the anti-GMO labeling effort. They don't want to have to label GMO foods because they're worried that people are going to be scared of the foods if they find out they're genetically modified. So it's a huge debate here, and so this merger thing, it's very big news, because Monsanto is the largest seed supplier in the United States, and if they merge with Dow, they would become the largest global seed supplier, man. And so we're talking about even further centralizing of the food supply here, and this is a problem that I think is under addressed, and everybody wants to say, oh yeah, GMOs are bad and stuff, but I have to disagree with that. GMOs are not bad in theory. In a vacuum, GMOs are not bad. I don't think there's plenty of good ones out there, but Monsanto, their practices, many of their products are pretty bad, and they're causing a lot of environmental issues, health issues, and stuff like that.
We can correlate how much GMOs and processed foods people eat, and the poorer people eat more of those, and they have higher rates of cancer. Just generally speaking.
Yeah, and the poor people also eat a lot more like refined sugars, and yeah, it does go back to like the high fructose corn syrup and stuff, which is like 99% genetically modified.
It's a silent weapon for a quiet war.
Processed foods and stuff like that, and that to me is like the big issue, man. Like here in Southern California, the poor people around here have huge rates of diabetes, man. Really high rates in like the Latino community and stuff. A bunch of people have diabetes, and obviously diabetes, type 1 diabetes, goes right back to your diet. Sorry, type 2 diabetes. I get them mixed up. I think it's type 2. It comes back to your diet, dude, and you're eating a bunch of this, high fructose corn syrup, drinking a bunch of soda, eating a bunch of sweet foods and stuff, and all these people are having diabetes, and then they're in turn pretty much lifetime dependent on the healthcare system, which is notoriously bad in the United States now. It's a vicious cycle. It starts with the food, gets people sick, people get trapped in this cycle, they get hooked on pharmaceuticals, and then Bayer is a huge supplier of pharmaceuticals, man. And so, this is a very, very interesting topic, and I think people need to connect the dots here. The food, the pharmaceuticals, the chemicals, it's all tied in here. And the same companies that are selling you food that give you diabetes are the ones that are selling you the medicines to help you fight off the diabetes, man. So very, very vicious cycle. Go ahead, Jake.
Jake, you can disagree with me here, but I don't know if you've seen the documentary Forks Over Knives. A lot of people have. It's pretty common now, but they show a couple case studies of people who beat diabetes by adhering to a regimen of whole foods based diet and exercise. And I think more people should try that.
Yeah, definitely. For like type 2 diabetes, man, it's you can beat that. You can beat that disease. You can cure it. It's something that you're not born with type 2 diabetes. You get it from eating badly and not exercising and stuff, And the Western diet just makes it much worse, dude. We've got huge rates of diabetes in the United States. I haven't done the research, but I'd say we're either up near the top or the top in Western in developed countries of diabetes rates. You know what I mean? Really bad scenario. We got a couple callers on the line. Before we shift away from this Monsanto thing, I'm going to take a couple callers. First, a caller from 260 area code. How's it going? You're on the Anti-Media Radio. You want to chime in on this Monsanto-Bayer merger?
Yeah, man. I was just calling in to listen, to be honest. But we have a Monsanto around here, and it's like there was a huge push worldwide to kick Monsanto out everywhere, and that was kind of happening here in America, and it really died down in the last 2 years, and it's looking like they're just beefing up even more. I saw an article the other day saying that the USDA had pushed Whole Foods or organic grocery markets. I think it's Whole Foods organic grocery markets. I can't remember, but they'd pushed them to accept the Monsanto products, and it's like while all these other nations have really beat Monsanto and knocked them back, Monsanto is really like digging in deeper here in America. It's like getting worse and worse.
Yeah, they're kind of a trademark of the new American way. I don't know how else to explain it or describe it. I mean, it's this idea that if you have a company that gets big enough and you get enough influence within the government, you can kind of do whatever the hell you want. You know, whether it's flooding the country with glyphosate, which has been found to be probably carcinogenic, and I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that it does cause cancer, or getting your studies rammed through. I mean, there's been plenty of research that showed that a lot of the studies on Monsanto's products have been flawed, or they ignored a lot of the details, or that they measured the toxicity in a vacuum and didn't properly measure it in the environment and all the other factors that go into it. I mean, this is the reason I think why people like Sanders and Trump are gaining so much momentum in this election, is because people are fed up with the new American way. And I guess that's the way I'm going to talk about it from now on, because America used to be, we used to have this kind of idea about ingenuity and innovation and entrepreneurship and stuff, and now it's this idea of Wall Street and crony capitalism and buying influence, buying politicians and stuff. That's what we're known for, and that's why this country has gone from being the foremost destination for people around the world to come to, all the best and brightest, to what it is now, where it's kind of like this declining empire, and everyone's kind of like, well, shit, what's going to happen next? I mean, is America going to do something stupid again? And that's kind of where we've descended to, is this area where it's no longer like this, innovation-driven economy. It's like a connection-based and influence-based economy. And it's made us uncompetitive around the world. And now we have to use things like the TPP, this huge military-industrial complex, to go force our ideas down people's throats instead of competing for these ideas and competing for the best and brightest out there. We're now, putting a gun to people's head and saying, hey, take it or leave it. And you don't want to leave it because it's going to be bad. You're going to end up like Venezuela, you know what I mean? Caller from 260, did you have anything else to add?
Oh, no. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, if you want to just listen, I can leave you on the line. Make sure you're keep your microphone muted. If you want to chime back in later on, you can unmute and just kind of interject. We'll keep you on the line here, but we're gonna move on here from this Monsanto stuff, because there's a bunch of other. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for listening. Bunch of other stuff going on. Next up on the list is election news. Everyone's favorite topic. The California primary, which is like by and far the single largest state out there. This is like the first time in the time that I've been paying attention. This is the first time California is actually matters. I guess it doesn't matter so much on the Republican side, and it's crazy because all these political commentators are like, oh, the Republicans are imploding. The Republicans are going to have a contested convention. They're going to try to screw Trump and stuff. I mean, all that commentary is now thrown out the window. Trump has sewn up the Republican nomination of pretty much like 99% guaranteed. Sorry, I got to.
And he's leading in all the corporate media polls.
He is. But on the flip side here, we got the Democratic primary, which months ago the corporate media said, hey, it's already sewn up. Hillary Clinton won it. It's over. Like, all you people supporting Bernie Sanders, just get in line behind Hillary Clinton. So I mean, the media, the pundits, the talking heads, they all had it wrong. They said the Republicans were going to fall apart, that it was going to be a contested convention. But actually, what's happening is the Democrats are actually facing a much greater schism than the Republicans are, because now the Republicans are just going to get behind Donald Trump. That's already kind of an afterthought. The Democrats are very, very divided here between Sanders and Clinton. And for the first time in my aware lifetime, California is actually going to be very instrumental here. If Bernie Sanders has a big win in California, I mean, that could change everything. Because if you're looking at the polls, and I just wrote an article about this today, if you're looking at the polls, the Real Clear Politics, they compile this really cool average of polls and stuff. Donald Trump has now surpassed Clinton, not only in like the recent polls, But in the average polls, like throughout all the race, now Trump is leading Clinton. Trump, I mean, we put an article, Claire wrote a great article about this last week too. Trump, by all measures, and judging by like the way that Hillary Clinton came in, I think she had like, what, 80% support at one point at the beginning of the race, and Sanders was just chipping away at it the whole time. She went from 80% to now where Sanders is like leading her in some polls. Hillary Clinton has zero momentum. She has zero enthusiasm. I mean, she went from 80%, now she's down to like in the 40s. And like she just continues to fall. And Trump, despite all the odds and everybody saying he couldn't do it, Trump's on the rise. I mean, Trump is going to beat Hillary Clinton. So now California comes into play. I think now with the polls showing that, you know, that Trump could beat Clinton, maybe that'll change people's minds with Sanders, and maybe Sanders can pull off a big win in California. And even if he doesn't, even if he only wins by a little bit, Jake, do you think this will have any kind of impact on like the superdelegates? Because keep in mind, the superdelegates supposedly are in place for electability. The superdelegates are supposed to cast their vote for electability. They're supposed to get someone that can beat the Republican. By all measures, Bernie Sanders could beat Donald Trump by over 10%. Hillary Clinton is now going to lose to Donald Trump. I mean, do you think this will have any play in the election?
No. The Democrats would rather lose with Hillary than win with Bernie. They pre-selected Hillary because she supports their corporate crime syndicate, and that's all there is to it.
DB, what do you think of this?
Spot on. And it's going to rift. The party's dead. I mean, the party going forward's dead. It's going to become the new Progressive Party or whatever other mantle they're going to put under.
Absolutely.
And Bernie may or may not go under that banner. I don't know. I mean, if he ran with Stein, I think he could win as an independent. I really do. So I hope that happens. I'm going to be in Philly for this because I know something's going to go down and I want to be there. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy convention. I'm contemplating going too.
You should come through, man. Just bring an air mattress.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking, I remember years ago, after Ron Paul lost the 2012 election, about the possibility of like a Ron Paul Dennis Kucinich ticket, which, you know, Kucinich was kind of like the Bernie Sanders of like a couple of elections ago, but he never had the kind of support Sanders had. I think just the time is just a lot better. I don't think Bernie Sanders is a better candidate than Kucinich was. I think that just the mood of the country has changed so much since then. And now Bernie Sanders is just able to tap into it. But I recently stumbled across this video where Ron Paul was actually talking kind of favorably about Bernie Sanders. I'm going to play the clip real quick. Let's see if I can pull it up. Oh, it's really low. I don't know if I can get it to come through.
He says that he disagrees with him on a lot of issues, but that he feels a kinship to him.
Yeah, here we go.
And people will say, "How are you doing this with a socialist?" I said, "We're both against the special benefits to big business," which was true. But his answer to that wouldn't always be the same. Mine would always drift to the free market, and his would drift to, well, we need more government.
Can you guys hear it?
Well,
yeah.
Yep.
Subsidies to large corporations or the military-industrial complex. So in that sense, there is a kinship. Matter of fact, I believe that the coalition of libertarians and progressives is a good coalition. I had a much better development of that coalition with Dennis Kucinich. We understood each other. We supported a lot of the same issues. And I think that's how we should get together. We shouldn't have it where I have to compromise my sincere beliefs and somebody from the left have to compromise their belief. I think you can come together without compromising just because we overlap.
Well, there you have it. And, Jake, you and me have talked about this plenty, man, about the progressive libertarian kind of alliance. And I think that would be huge. I think that could win this election coming up. But it would take a lot. I mean, it would take Bernie Sanders breaking away from the Democrats and running independent, and it would take somebody from like the libertarian-leaning end of the spectrum, like, I don't know, Rand Paul breaking ranks, or even Ron Paul, I don't know, and coming together and forming, some kind of alliance there. That literally would like run for the money. That would be big.
Cause a political revolution. If Bernie Sanders went independent and they got someone like, really, they should get Ron Paul to do it. But if it needs to be four parties, because it needs to be so that we don't want Sanders to be accused of giving the election to Trump, because that would be bad. But yeah, I mean, what he said is absolutely true. I mean, and it's cool to hear Ron Paul. It's cool that him and Ralph Nader and people who are starting to realize that they can put aside some differences in order to form a coalition of, between libertarians and progressives, between, certain adjuncts of the establishment who realize how messed up it is and want to try and change that. And it will take that coalition. It's the only thing that can do it.
Yeah, we have to make a change in baby steps, unfortunately, and it used to work for the greater good where we had checks and balances. Now they're in collusion against us, but thankfully that pesky document keeps screwing up their plans.
Yeah.
And, the thing is, on the other end, on the establishment end of the spectrum, they've made an alliance of their own, but it's an alliance of like neoconservatism and like neoliberal economics and neoconservative foreign policy. They, the establishment Democrats and the establishment Republicans, they come together and they say, you know what? Yeah, let's bomb a bunch of countries. I mean, evidence enough in Obama just starting a new war in Libya, or not a new war, but now he's like going to join arming the Libyan government. I mean, he's been arming the opposition in Syria. He just started putting ground troops into Yemen, and he put troops back into Iraq. He's continuing the war in Afghanistan. I mean, the Republicans and the Democrats, they agree on that stuff.
And they agree on using the fear of terrorism to get policies pushed through they wouldn't be able to. Just last week, when the Egypt airplane went down, I mean, they hadn't even started really investigating the case yet, and Hillary Clinton immediately already was like, it could very well be an act of terror. I mean, she's just so obviously playing the fear card, which she's going to do more and more and more. And we could very well see a terror attack that happens between now and the election. And they want to scare people into voting for big military when it's clearly evident that we need less spending on the military and more spending on a myriad other things. If one is so inclined to believe that the government should be spending money on things, it definitely should not be on war.
No, and these guys are so good at their propaganda that they've literally, I mean, the neoconservatives have made it seem like Obama has like somehow decimated the military and like gutted the military, and like, the Republicans in the debates are like, we got to rebuild the military, and
wasn't it 670 billion out of 1.1 trillion? So it was like 57% of the GDP went to like 2.5 million people. So like 0.7% of the population controls 57% of the GDP. I mean, that's where we're at, man.
It's oligarchy for sure, and it's empire. And they're so good with their propaganda that they've got a bunch of people convinced that Obama is like a do-nothing, pansy when it comes to foreign policy. I mean, Obama has started like 9 new foreign interventions, man. I mean, he's not doing the Bush doctrine, and he's not invading, he's not going and putting 100,000 guys on the ground. But Obama has started like a lot of new conflicts around the world, and he's given the fodder for the terrorists to get recruits. I mean, basically what Obama has done is a neoconservative wet dream. He's ensured perpetual war for the next, 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, all this blowback that's going to come from Libya, Syria, Iraq, and all these places, that stuff is not going to end in the next presidency. It's not going to end even if, Sanders or Trump gets elected. It's not going to end there. I mean, it's not. And then, Hillary Clinton is going to come in and she'd just make it a lot worse. She'd carry on what Obama's doing, but she'd add a bunch of ground troops to the equation, no-fly zones and, direct confrontations with Russia and Iran.
She'd even strap on fatigues and air jump into the battlefield.
I'm sure she would. Equality, right?
Or she would have Bill do it.
She sent Bill in there for revenge.
Yeah, like like maybe like talk to some of the troops about maybe some friendly fire or something.
But Bill, man, he's so slick. He'd get embedded in one of the all-female platoons or something like that, and he'd have a field day out there.
He'd fly over on that pedophile's plane.
Yeah, he'd get dropped in from
Epstein?
Epstein's private jet, right?
Yeah. Oh, God.
It's horrible that we find this stuff funny, but
No, we don't think it's funny. We don't know how else to cognitively deal with it besides a nervous laughter.
it's our way to cope.
Yeah.
Oh man. But anyway, with California coming up, I just want to get to the point here in this article I wrote. Trump by all measures will beat Clinton. So, I mean, if you're in California and you're planning on voting and you're going to go out there, and I know I'm speaking to the choir here on the Anti-Media Radio, but I'm sure people out listening have family that live out here that are going to vote for Hillary Clinton just because they don't know who else to vote for. Clinton is going to lose to Trump. So if you're a Democrat and you plan on beating Trump, well, then you have to choose someone other than Hillary Clinton. I'll just leave it at that. Because it's just not looking good for Hillary. I mean, she's got so many problems, so much baggage. I mean, the FBI is on her case.
Somehow his dirt's not going to matter for him. He's like a Teflon Don.
Yeah, he is. He gets away.
His base won't care.
They don't care. They don't.
Whereas hers, I mean, all the 65-year-old, about to retire lifelong Democrats, when they learn really the dirt behind her when he gets going, it's over.
I mean, Hillary's essential support group is that 40 plus, or let's even go higher. Let's say the 50 plus female vote. That's her main base. Trump is already. I mean, Trump's not an idiot, and he's got a lot of good polling. He's got a lot. He knows what the public wants to hear, and I think that's basically what he's built his campaign around. It's not built on his past, it's not built on his principles, it's not built on his political stances. He's built his entire campaign around what people want to hear. And if you look at Hillary Clinton's base of support, the 50 plus female vote, I mean, if he's able to paint Bill Clinton as this womanizer, this sexual predator, and basically paint Hillary Clinton as an enabler,
right,
dude, he's going to win, man. He's going to beat the shit out of Hillary Clinton. I hate to say
if there's even a sniff that she knew that he was on a plane with underage women,
right, yeah,
those mothers, those grandmothers, not only will they not vote for her, they'll actively go against her.
Yeah.
It was really a brilliant move by them to immediately take his weakness, which is the philandering, womanizing, misogyny issue, and completely project it right back onto the other side, using Bill and using her as an enabler, thus diminishing her role as a feminist too. I mean, take whatever merit you want from it. Obviously, I hate Trump, but I mean, as a political move, pretty smart.
Very brilliant, dude. I mean, Trump is probably one of the most brilliant politicians in modern times, and I hate Trump. I can't stand Trump. I think he's a hateful, divisive, distractionary. I mean, the whole thing about Trump, my two biggest beefs with Trump, he's bringing out the hate in people, which arguably was already there, but now it's finding public venue. And two, he's distracting people from like the real issues, man. He's not even bringing up real issues for the most part. He's like distracting people from the causes of, the issue, the economic issues, and all the other crises we're having. I mean, the refugee crisis, the border crisis,
of which he takes full advantage of.
Yes, and he's addressing the symptom. He's not addressing the cause. So I mean, essentially, he's distracting people away from like what caused these issues. Why are people in Latin America and especially Mexico trying to get the hell out of that country? He's ignoring that, and he's ignoring why a bunch of people in the Middle East are trying to leave the Middle East, which comes from foreign policy, Monroe Doctrine, NAFTA, trade agreements, things like that. He's more or less addressing the symptoms and stuff. And so it is a big distraction. But you know what, dude? It doesn't matter. He's going to win if he runs against Hillary Clinton because he's a brilliant politician. That's all there is to it. He's brilliant at it. He's doing a huge job. I mean, as awful as the crap he says, he's doing it. He's winning. He beat how many people in the GOP? I mean, there was like what 17 candidates.
Yeah, he beat the hell out of them too. He made them look like fools. He made Chris Christie his little lap boy.
Yeah, dude, and he made Jeb Bush like, oh man, he got so far under Jeb Bush's skin. He beat the crap out of Rubio. He made Ted Cruz look like a damn liar. And
he slaughtered him.
Clinton can't fend off one challenger who is this old socialist that, you know, in any other election would be like an afterthought. It's like, oh, there's that old crazy Uncle Bernie again, you know. And in this election, like, Hillary is such a weak candidate. She can't even beat Bernie Sanders, who won't even go after her on her email scandals, and he won't even do this crazy attacks that Trump is, I'm sure, gearing up to do.
And he should have. I think things could be a little different if Bernie had been as vicious then as it was now. Here's my question, and I meant to ask this earlier. What do you guys actually think is going to happen at the convention?
It's going to be contested just by a hair. I think California's going to just make it enough to where she's not going to get enough delegates. And she's going to have to go contest it, and they're going to throw it. And there's going to be a split in the party right there.
Very interesting. I think that you're pretty accurate. I guess, you know, we still don't know for sure, but I think you're pretty accurate. What I do know is anecdotal evidence. I'm a California guy. I'm here in San Diego, which surprisingly, San Diego is actually kind of a middle of the road leaning. It kind of leans Republican, actually.
It's a Trump town, isn't it?
But we have a Republican mayor right now and stuff. We do have like areas that are very liberal, and we have some areas that are very, very progressive too. You wouldn't believe the amount of Bernie supporters around here, dude. Like, I literally can't go outside without seeing a Bernie Sanders stickers on people's cars. I think Bernie Sanders is going to have a really strong showing. I think Trump, I mean, a lot of Trump support around here, dude. A lot of Trump support. But overwhelmingly more for Bernie Sanders. So, I mean, if they count the votes correctly, if there isn't any bullshit that goes on, which is, you know, a whole another variable, with the, you know,
it's already going on. They're already pre knocking people out. If you're an NPP, you're already screwed.
So, and
you know,
it's going to be very interesting. I think that, especially with the new data, with the polling and the real clear politics average showing that Trump is able to beat Clinton. And if you look at her graphs, man, like I said earlier in the show, she went from 80%, now she's down into the 40s, and it's just like on the decline. Like, her momentum is like negative, and her enthusiasm is like negative, and Trump is just kind of holding steady and just building more and more support. I mean, I think that's something that these superdelegates, in theory, are supposed to look at. But as you mentioned, I think that it may be thrown for Hillary Clinton. And as much as that sounds bad, as you know, the Trump-Hillary kind of presidential race, as you mentioned, I think it could create the split that we need. We need more than two parties, and I may not agree with a lot of stuff that any of these people are saying, but we sure as hell need more than two choices when it comes to the political parties and the candidates. We need many more choices. We need to broaden out the debate. And the debates will allow a lot more Americans to get exposed to new ideas that can help them make a better informed choice. Because right now we've been living under this duopoly of Republican and Democrat for so long that people are just so brainwashed. You know, the older voting establishment, they're so brainwashed by this liberal conservative thing that they can barely see outside of that very narrow spectrum. The spectrum is so much more broad than that, but we're focused. We're only allowed to debate between these two very, very, you know, similar parties that have very similar ideas right now.
It's just any of the old UK Commonwealth, including us, any of the countries like that. All they have that two-party duopoly, and that's it. Whereas you go into different countries, and France plays that game too. But you go into like Italy, or of course now Greece is going crazy, but they have a bunch of parties.
Yeah, and they have to form like coalition governments where it's like, hey, we got this government. It's made up of like 8 different parties. They all come together on a compromise that represents the constituency. And by all means, I'm a huge critic of democracy and stuff. But let's face it. I mean, we're stuck with democracy for now until we have a new era of like enlightenment. Maybe we've already started that era. But for now, for the next couple, you know, for the next decade, for the next couple decades, we're stuck with this type of government that we have, and so we've got to try to at least have somewhat of an improvement on it. If not, we're going to end up in like the next World War or something stupid, you know, something huge that's going to cause destruction, and maybe, you know, maybe even worse than just killing off the humans, but actually killing off the planet. You know, and you know, if humans go extinct by killing each other off, okay. But if humans destroy the entire planet and ruin the whole ecosystem, that sucks for all the rest of the life and the potential for the life on this planet.
I was just going to ask real quick, not to throw us way too off, but does anyone really see a role for government when we go post-labor, meaning robots and free energy? I mean, they really have no role once that hits.
I wrote a novella about that because I simply can't understand how capitalism is going to function when artificial intelligence becomes strong. As far as government, I mean, are you talking about artificial intelligence, or are you just talking about...
Well, no, what I mean is this, like, people would be basically free to pursue whatever they wanted because all the labor and all the energy is just free.
Gotcha, yeah, post-labor. I don't know, what do you think, Nick?
I mean, I think if humanity is able to progress in a positive intellectual direction, I think that over time the need for government will slowly fade away, and that people will be self-governing and will be so well informed and so well educated that, you know, we won't need to be fighting over resources and stuff when scarcity starts going away and all that kind of thing.
Because that's all it is, really. It's just the monopoly of violence to protect scarce resources for whatever the dominant group can do that, and we don't need it anymore. Everybody on this planet could live a good life right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a whole branch of science fiction about a post-scarcity Earth and what that would entail. I mean, I don't really think we could possibly conceive of you know, the kind of paradigm shift that's going to happen when that goes down. I mean, I personally believe that they will find the people in control, the lords of power will continually find a way to create environments in which people are afraid and need them through coercion, psychological coercion, using the media. In the future, it'll be virtual environments. We'll be in virtual environments, and they will advertise through that. And who knows, the memes of the future could be just literally directly sent through the air. And I mean, they already think that, you know, mind control could be a very real thing. I just think that people in control, you know, they're so devious and so reluctant to you know, imagine an Earth that is not controlled, that I think they'll just keep finding a way to do it. But I mean,
and they're not gonna let go peacefully. You know, that's the thing that people are gonna have to realize, right? Is that, you know, once these guys start losing their grip, and I think they're already, you know, this is exactly why we have the Patriot Act and the NSA and all these surveillance factors, because they started losing their grip because of the internet. You know, they're not going to go peacefully. They're going to do everything they can to decimate free speech and to decimate your freedom and stuff, and then at the same time try to give themselves a reason to exist and give you a reason to want them to exist.
And they want you to become violent. They're planning for it. They've been planning for it for 50 years. I mean, I sometimes think 1968 was the dress rehearsal for what some people think is going to go down this year.
Yeah, because if there's a bunch of violence in the streets, then the government can legitimize itself and say, hey, look, we're going to come in, we're going to protect you from all this violence. And yeah, there might be a couple Kent States and a couple, you know, Ruby Ridge.
Look at all these anarchists. I mean, provocateurs.
Yeah, and so, you know, they use these kind of incidents to legitimize themselves. I mean, look at the riots in Ferguson and Baltimore and stuff. You know, while many people are on one side of the equation, other people on the other side, like, oh my God, we're going to get, those rioters are going to come for us and they're going to destroy our houses and stuff too. And, you know.
But hey, that's the imagery we need to see. And with social media, they're not going to be able to control the narrative with just the mainstream news. So if that shit goes down at the convention, that's the kind of imagery that people are, the new generation, that they're, you know, the amount recording and social media that goes on, that will directly expose the police state. So it's a double-edged sword for them if they incite that kind of violence.
Yeah, dude, and you know what? That kind of brings me up to another aspect. I want to let DB go real quick because I have another little thing to add to this equation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of the things we're going to see a lot of is young delegates. A lot of people that are getting involved in the political process for the first time, and an overwhelmingly huge majority of them are college graduates who can't get enough employment, so they have the hours to be able to go to Philly and do this, which is just crazy to me. So this is what it's going to be. It's not going to be like a riot situation like they're preparing for. It's going to be thousands and thousands of young people with degrees that can't get work and do have just enough money and time to make that trip. And man, if I could organize some way where I could get, hundreds of thousands of panhandlers to just destroy commerce in Philly and block the streets, that'd be great.
One thing I wanted to add to this here was that, maybe these, we're all familiar with the Facebook whistleblowers recently that came out and was, they were saying that Facebook was censoring conservative topics on the news feed and the trending topics and stuff like that. Maybe this was another timed whistleblower that was like seeing the writing on the wall, like, oh shit, we got to be careful because these conventions are coming up, and we don't want Facebook censoring the real issues that are going down over there and the real information. So they pulled the trigger on the whistleblow strategically in time to have Facebook try to roll back on the censorship and stuff like that. Just in time for this stuff to go down. So that to me is another, maybe variable that should be thrown out there. Because, Facebook is on its heels right now because it got called out for all that censorship and stuff. So they're not going to be heavy-handed trying to control the flow of information for the next couple months. And so that could play into what could go down in November or earlier, at the conventions and stuff like that. So, very interesting developments going on. We got a caller on the line from San Diego, 619. If you're still there, how's it going? You're on the Anti-Media. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, a lot of things, although it's been worth the wait for over 12 minutes.
Awesome. Well, what's up? Alberto, is that you?
Yeah, it's me. ¿Cómo están?
Go ahead, man. What do you want to talk about? You want to chime in on this election race?
Well, there are a lot of things. For starters, can we go back at least for 2 minutes on the march against Monsanto? Because I just hope it's because of the electoral season and whatever that I don't know that there wasn't a lot of huge response over the march over against Monsanto because of the local rallies that Bill Clinton and Bernie Sanders held in the area. But I know it's not surprising that corporate mainstream media didn't show up to cover it, that all the local news outlets treated like it didn't exist. But I was unpleasantly surprised that apparently there was no independent media either.
Yeah, and I'm guilty on that. I didn't show up to the local march. I've been having my own internal battles with the movement on that front.
Are you overwhelmed with work with you and just one other guy on staff?
I kind of explained it a little earlier in the show. No, man, we've got like 20 people on the Anti-Media staff now, unfortunately. But, just a little conflicted with the local movement here. But yeah, it's a topic that's been kind of ignored by the corporate media for a long time. And when they do show up, I mean, they'll throw out some like negative publicity and stuff like that. Anyway.
Yeah, no, pretty much. I wonder with how much green would we have to public relations department so they can actually show up the car? Because one thing interesting, a couple of weeks back, I talked to a reporter that told me that could the marchers be a little more kinder to the press? He told me that he went to Whole Foods, that he was a vegan. I don't think it's much the report. It's pretty much the censoring or the editorial style spin they put on the news that
Well,
we basically dislike.
I remember the first march against Monsanto in San Diego, and it was a huge event. We had like 2,000 people out there rallying and stuff, and I gave a speech, and I called the corporate media out for not covering the topics that should be covered, and they were in the audience. They were actually there, and I remember one of the reporters came up to me, and he approached me afterwards, and he had some words for me, and he was really upset. He's like, "Man, we came out here, and we're trying to cover your event, and you're going to call us out for our coverage and stuff." And you know, I was like, "Look, man, like I didn't mean to offend you or anything, but let's be real here, dude. Your company does not, you know, give fair coverage to, you know, issues that are mattering, and that's why activists are out here. That's why there's movements out here. That's why people march in the streets, because they're seeing an injustice that's not being properly addressed. So they've got to march to try to draw attention to it." You know, and the guy got really mad, and he's like, "Oh, there's been plenty of coverage." And I told him, I'm like, "Look, dude, I'm like, if you can send me a coverage from your parent company," I think in this particular case, the parent company was CNN of the guy who the guy was working for. I was like, if you could send me some coverage talking about the stuff that we're talking about today, I will formally apologize to you publicly. And you know, I got a couple texts from his editor, and the editor was calling me, you know, bad names and things like that, but they never once sent me the coverage because it didn't exist. You know, and that's the thing is, like, you know, these media people think they're going to show up to activist events, to marches and protests and get treated favorably. They're not, because the reason people are marching and protesting is because the press isn't talking about the topics that need to be talked about, like the TPP, the issue with the Monsanto, the war, the anti-war movements that used to exist. I mean, where is the anti-war movement now? I don't know, but I hope it comes back soon. But you know, that's the reason the press gets treated badly at these protests, because people are upset with the press too, just as much as they're upset with the political establishment and the corporations that are, you know, doing bad things. The media is all part of it.
You know, that's why it won't be any surprise that pretty much that from now on longer, that pretty much will not just be like Fox News or Fox CNN or Fox MSNBC chants when there's the social justice rallies from now on.
Yeah, they've been happening, man, and CNN's been a huge target because CNN is the worst, in my opinion. I mean, at least with Fox News, it's like, you know, it's a conservative slant. With MSNBC, you know, it's a Democratic slant. With CNN, it's like, oh, we pretend to be neutral, while at the same time, like, just completely promoting the empire and promoting like corporate agendas while pretending to remain like unbiased. And that's why CNN has become such a big target, because a lot of people many, you know, older folks that aren't informed, they watch CNN and they think that it's like they don't like Fox because of O'Reilly, and they don't want MSNBC because of Al Sharpton and all that crap. But they watch CNN and they think that it's, oh yeah, they just present the news. It's like, no, dude, they're presenting the agenda just in a less opinionated way, but they're presenting the agenda nonetheless. Alberto, we've only got like 45 seconds left.
All right, then I just have one more question before I go. Do you think we could have some local candidates, just so pretty much we are not overlooking the other races that are going on the show later in the upcoming weeks?
Great point, man. And, you know, the presidential election is not the only election going on. I think the most important ones are the ones in your local areas. Here we have in San Diego a bunch of people, and, you know, getting involved in local politics is like the only legitimate way, in my opinion, of involving yourself. I mean, federal politics are so convoluted, even state politics, but the local people, I mean, they can be held accountable. And I've said this before, is like the politicians, if you could lay your hands on them, if you actually see them, and if you could like physically remove them from office, those are the people that you can hold accountable. I mean, the president, I've never seen the president in person. I've only seen him on TV, and I've only seen him on YouTube clips. Never even seen my governor. I've only seen a representative in Congress once. You know, these people aren't, it's hard to hold them accountable. The local representation, you can hold them accountable, get involved, know who your local people are. If you're going to vote, do your thing there. Thank you all for tuning in. Alberto, great questions. DB, thanks again.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.